This episode is brought to you by the Thrive Tribe. Check it out at chasingbrighter.com/Thrive Tribe. Welcome. Today, we are going to look at a mindset shift that can transform your wellness journey. That is prioritizing progress over perfection. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by lofty wellness goals or frustrated by setbacks, this episode is for you. We are 2 months into the new year, and maybe your goals and your New Year's resolution or what you want to do this year. We wanted to have this episode to really do a gut check and talk to all of us about where we are with our goals and what are these things that we want to make sure we don't get frustrated with and overwhelmed in terms of experiencing setbacks and all of that. So today we're going to explore how celebrating small wins, like drinking enough water and practicing daily gratitude, can boost self compassion and help you build momentum toward larger goals. We want to shift the focus away from perfection. I have a hard time with that, Jess. I don't know about you, but I always idealize in my mind things and then I set myself up for disappointment. So we want to get away from perfection and embrace growth that feels sustainable and truly kind to ourselves. Yeah. And stick around because later in this episode, we're going to share some journaling prompts to help you reflect on your wellness journey and deepen your connection with yourself. Let's talk about perfection. Perfection is a trap that can stall our progress and steal our joy. When we aim for perfection, we set ourselves up for disappointment because let's be honest, perfection is impossible. And when we don't meet these unrealistic expectations, we're left feeling like we failed. The truth is, Kelly, that small, consistent steps forward are far more powerful than trying to take giant leaps that leave us burnout. So, progress is about showing up for yourself, even in small ways, and celebrating those efforts. So, I think that's one of the things is that, we talk about progress over perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. And you and I have talked a lot about how we get stuck in analysis paralysis. So you're trying to make it this perfect situation and you're kind of stuck. But if you can break it down into very small steps, we're making progress and we're not getting stuck in that swirl of like, if I'm not going to do it exactly right, then we end up doing nothing at all. And we don't make any progress because we're holding out for this, like, oh, I'm gonna start dating when I lose 20 pounds, right? Oh, I know people who have said, I'll start going to the gym after I lose 5 pounds. Or what can you think of, Kelly, that people kind of hold back on? Let's say, oh, once this happens, then I'll do this,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
So many
know,
things. A lot of things when it comes to
like
what
clean
I tend
eating.
to do is I say things like, I'm going to work out every single day. And then I work out for 5 days and something happens and I don't work out.
Yeah. Or like, I'm interested in yoga, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to save money. When I get my finances in order, I'm going to join a yoga studio versus turning on YouTube and doing 5 or 10 minutes of yoga. Like you said,
Yes.
or just, I even think of like clean eating. Well, we're traveling. It's really busy right now. But in March, we're going to start like eating healthy,
So this
versus
is
like
about
small steps.
Yeah, and so a lot of this for us is especially when you get to these moments where you are starting to feel discouraged and you're struggling to you kinda maybe set yourself up for disappointment,
Yeah.
because you've had this perfect vision. This is about what can you do to kind of get those small wins, and, one of the things that when we talk about even good habit building is about, stacking habits, and so part of small wins in my view is kind of thinking about that as beginning that stack of habits
Hmm.
that can help you feel like you're making some wins because small wins make big wins, Jess.
Yeah. If you're kind of like, well, how is this going to help me? Drinking an extra glass of water or going to bed 15 minutes earlier might not seem like a big deal. But just like you said, the small wins add up and they're the foundation of larger, more sustainable changes. And most importantly, they're acts of kindness to yourself, reminding you that your efforts are enough and that you're worthy.
Yeah, so let's talk about examples of small wins in wellness. Jess, you just threw a couple of those out there, but let's dive a little bit deeper. These aren't about hitting big milestones, big achievements. It's about these small little moments of self care and progress. One of the things that's very easy is to just drink water, like we said. Drinking I think you're supposed to drink like 8 to 12 glasses a day. You're supposed to, right? This is where we all get stuck is in this perfection of what everyone says we're supposed to do. It boosts hydration and helps your body function better, especially during the winter months, and it improves your mood.
I was just going to say with that is a couple things. One is ingesting water can be a lot of things. If you have grapes, if you have an apple, if you have lettuce, those all have water in them as well. You are ingesting water. The newest standard is kind of like half your body weight in ounces as
Yes,
well.
yes.
But it's kind of like, let's say, let's you have a baseline. I'm drinking no water. Okay, let's drink 1 glass of water, right? And just kind of meet yourself where you're at.
Yeah, one of the things that I need to remember to do more often, which would be a small win for me, is I tend to in the morning drink coffee. I have my 2 cups every single day. That's like my routine. And then I don't drink water until later in the morning. So what I'd like to do is one of the things is actually just drinking a bunch of water when I get up in the morning. Everyone says to do that, right? To have a full glass of
Mhm.
water when you get up.
Mhm.
And then another one would be after I drink coffee. I have to laugh because by the way, Brian tracks his water, Jess, and he
Mhm.
gets his hydration in every day. I never see him really drinking water, and I think it's the funniest thing where I'm like, "Are you really drinking that water?" He's like a secret water drinker, I think. Like, I don't know where he gets
'Cause
his
he's
water
not, like,
consumption
carrying a
from.
water bottle
He
around
doesn't
like we
he's
are.
anti-water bottle. He does not. I have a
Oh,
bajillion. I've trained our children to have many water bottles. We
yeah.
joke that, like, when he does bring a water bottle, I, like, kind of make fun of him because I'm like,
Yeah.
"Look at you. Maybe you're gonna drink water." But anyway, so another one is just daily practicing of gratitude. So, whether that's just jotting down 3 things you're grateful for, taking these moments, it's going back to our Hygge episode,
Yeah.
just taking
Yeah.
these small moments, shifting your mindset, and
Yeah.
really thinking about what are those things that you're grateful for. We have some journaling prompts later on, so make
Mhm.
sure you stay tuned to some of
And the
those.
other thing too, again, going back to progress over perfection, practicing daily gratitude doesn't have to be journal. Like, we've talked before, our family goes around the table and says what they're grateful for. The end, right? What are we grateful for today? Just say it out loud before your meal. And, it doesn't have to, you don't have to wait and say, I'm going to start gratitude journaling when I go to a stationery store and buy a beautiful journal. Then I'm going to get a good pen and I'm going to start journaling. It's like just start by kind of throwing it out there. Another example of small wins are taking a 10-minute walk. Movement, even in small doses, improves our physical and mental health. There's a woman I just saw today, and she was saying, if you take if you do 3 sets of 10 body squats during your day, that is more beneficial to your body than a 30-minute walk. So, there are all these hacks and things we could be doing to add to our day of just increasing movement.
And finally, thinking about when it comes to nutrition is maybe you swap out one less nutritious meal for something fresh and balanced. And
Yeah.
I find breakfast and lunch are the easier ones for me.
Mhm.
It just depends. We've been eating late, and sometimes just eating a light dinner is better for me too. So, just really, again, some of this is really that intentional practice and being mindful about having a small win and
Yeah.
what that means for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you're swapping out a not so good snack
Mhm.
for a healthy snack.
Yeah, I have clients who are like, "Okay, I'm gonna eat healthy, so I'm gonna start cooking all my meals." Well, what do you do now? Well, we eat out 6 days a week. So it's like, okay, let's set our goal of eating out 5 days a week again, right? So just really meeting yourself where you're at. We're giving some examples, but look at what's important to you, meeting yourself where you're at and trying to make a small change. These wins, they may seem small, but they're significant again because they remind you that you are worth the effort and they are building blocks for habits that will carry you toward larger goals.
And the most important thing about handling these small wins is celebrating them.
Yeah.
So, how do we celebrate small wins? Because part of this is, really rewarding yourself for making these smaller steps, this progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not about throwing a party every time you drink a glass of water. That would be
Mhm.
fun, but that would be
Yeah.
a lot of parties. But it's about pausing to acknowledge your efforts and what they mean. And maybe that's a moment that you can take and reflect and say to yourself, I'm proud of this choice I made today. And maybe you jot it down in a journal and look back at it later. The idea of celebrating small wins is about building self compassion and creative positive cycles of motivation.
And
Just one of the things that I did last week. So every Friday, I go to coffee with friends. And I usually get a blueberry scone. It's the only scone they have. I like scones, so they want something super sweet like a donut, but I like to have a pastry of some sort with
mhm.
coffee. And last week, actually for the last 2 weeks, I started bringing a granola bar, a protein bar of some
Mhm.
sort
Yeah.
that I will drink with my coffee. It's 13 grams of protein. And I'm like, you know what? I'm making this small switch. It really wasn't that hard to make that switch, but that was
Yeah.
my like small win was, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to have this scone. I have to change out what I'm eating.
Yeah. And I think, like allowing, like, I think praising yourself, for that. And I followed this woman. I did this before, but it was like, you can also, when you set those small milestones, you can reward yourself, not just celebrate, but reward yourself. So like, I'm going to walk. I'm gonna walk during my lunch hour. I'm gonna walk 10 minutes, and if I do that for 4 weeks, I'm gonna buy myself a new pair of walking sneakers, right?
Yes.
That's a way to kinda
Yes.
celebrate, or tell your friends, "Oh my gosh," like you're celebrating right now, like, "Hey, I swapped out the scone, for this," or, "Hey, I've been drinking a lot more water." How do you kind of, again, praise yourself, take a moment, look back and be like, "Oh my gosh, look where I was last year and look where I am right now." I
Yes.
wanna give myself kudos.
Because we are so hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
And this is about really continuing to give yourself that grace and kindness and
Yeah.
self love
Yeah.
and self compassion that we all deserve.
I've been talking about my small little change is to not take my work computer on a weekend trip, so that's gonna be my little thing I'm going to be doing, which hopefully, encourages me to focus on mindfulness and being present. All of this it's important when we're talking about celebrating is because we want to avoid minimizing your progress. Drinking that water, practicing gratitude, taking a walk, moving your body, celebrating these wins, you are reinforcing to yourself a mindset of progress and self-acceptance.
I love that. And I think that's one area that I am not great at is celebrating my wins and
Yeah.
taking those moments because then it does feel like you're making progress that you can build on, which is fabulous. One of the more transformative tools on our wellness journeys can be journaling. It's a way to reflect on your journey,
Yeah.
process your emotions, and celebrate your progress. When you write down about how your small wins make you feel, you are solidifying their importance in your mind and you're creating a record of your growth.
Yeah.
Journaling allows you to notice patterns, they track your mood, and you can see how these small actions can impact your energy and your overall outlook in life. I mean, journaling is such an incredibly powerful tool. And it doesn't have to be, we've talked about this, right? It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a long page journal. It can be just
Yeah.
really quick, like just a note so that you remember and you can look back on them.
Yeah. And I think it allows us, like you're talking about, some reflection and to look at where we were and what we've done. And so we've talked before, we were kind of teasing you earlier about some journaling prompts. Okay. So here are some journaling prompts as you begin to shift your focus from perfection to progress. What wellness habit makes me feel most loved by myself? What wellness habit makes me feel the most self love? Write about the things that you do that feel nurturing, no matter how small they seem. This can help you identify which habits to prioritize.
And which habits at the same time that you want to make sure that you're celebrating. That's a very important part of us.
Hmm.
You know, Jess, it's really easy for me, especially like I think about well worn paths, is to fall into that perfection
Hmm.
trap, especially when, you see others, whether it's on social media or on TV, and I set very realistic standards and
Yeah.
expectations for
Hmm.
myself. But here's the thing that I have to keep telling myself as well. Nobody is perfect, and your journey doesn't need to be either. Progress happens when we allow ourselves to be human and embrace imperfection.
The next time you catch yourself striving for perfection, try to reframe your thinking and ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today to take a step forward? And focus on that step and let go of the need to have everything figured out.
I love that, Jess. And I think for me, the one small step, it has to happen in the morning because I talk myself out of it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing. Actually, I worked out this morning before all of my calls, which I normally don't do. And it's such a great way for me to start my day.
Mm,
And so I need to make sure I celebrate that as well. So,
yeah.
as we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you every small step forward is worth celebrating. Wellness is not about doing everything perfectly, it's about showing up for yourself with kindness and consistency. And start by acknowledging your small wins and letting them fuel your journey.
And that's why, we're not huge fans of like resolutions, but really just intentions. And so if you have felt like, oh my gosh, February is almost over and I failed with all that stuff, no, right? We are looking at what is your intention. And there is always time to start anew and to shift your focus into your well being. So now's the time to look at what are some things I can prioritize and start taking small steps toward. If this episode is resonating with you, we'd love to hear about your small wins. Share them with us on social media. And remember, progress, not perfection, is the key to loving yourself and living your best life.
Yes, love it. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Come visit us on Instagram or Facebook. Make sure to give us a follow. We have lots of giveaways. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com.